her parents got to know of her death, they released their own statement and stated that Osinachi could not have died of cancer, that Osinachi died because of domestic violence, that there had been domestic violence right from the first year of her marriage even to the moment of her death, that she has suffered so much from her husband Peter Nwachukwu, that it was because of domestic violence that was why this lady died. This lady, she sang Ekweme. I don't know if you know the song Ekweme. It was a very popular song in 2017. Even up to the time of her death, it was still a very popular song. The song brought her to limelight. If you will listen to the song, you will feel like crying. You feel the depth of her faith in God. But we didn't know that she was actually crying out for help even through those songs, because most of our songs, if you listen to it, you will feel like crying. You feel some kind of pain listening to those songs. Even till now, if you listen to those songs, you will still feel that type of, you feel pain, you feel some type of way, praising God, but you feel something listening to her songs. And though that was what shot her to limelight. And when she was said to have died in 2022, or April 8, 2022, her husband said she died because of lung cancer. Later, at first he said he died because of throat cancer. Later, he changed it to lung cancer. So, and her family, when they got to know that she died, they said that she couldn't have died because of cancer, that she didn't die because of cancer, that she died because of domestic violence, that there had been domestic violence in her marriage from the first year. That her mom, he cried out on the media that she hasn't seen her daughter for the past 8 years. That during the birth of her grandson, the first child that Osinachi had for Peter, that they didn't invite them. He made sure he shut her off from her family, so she couldn't communicate with any of her family members. She had a twin sister. He made sure that he broke the bond between both of them. They could not communicate except they meet during any church program. They would just greet in person, and if they sit to talk, Osinachi would be in problem. So that it was as if she was shut off from her own family, just facing Peter and her immediate family, just Peter and her children. So she was shut off from those people, and that was how she has been managing in that marriage. And nobody knew that this is what she was suffering. Even the church, members of the church, most of them didn't know that this was what Osinachi was passing through. And she went through this for years, until she succumbed to it on April 8, 2022. So today we are going to talk about Osinachi Nwachukwu. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda Camara and you're on Crime Stories with Linda. If your first time of coming across this channel, please don't hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And don't forget to like, comment, share. Thank you very much. So Osinachi Nwachukwu was born on the 12th of November 1979. She was born into a very religious family. Her parents were Christians. They loved God and staunch religious people. So growing up in that type of family, she had this talent for singing. She had her twin sister. So she got married to Peter Nwachukwu in 2008. So when they got married, at first, when Peter Nwachukwu was coming on to Osinachi, he was all lovey-dovey, a good person. Nobody knew that he's this kind of person that is violent. Nobody knew. So he was just coming on to her as a very good man that had this interest, romantic interest in her, that wants to get married to her and all of that. And they eventually got married in 2008, and that was where her problem started. So from that first year of her marriage, started facing domestic violence. It was said that Peter sometimes would beat her so much and lock her out of the house. Peter that we are talking about does not have any job. It was Osinachi, through Osinachi's songs and ministration. That was what feeds her family. She's the one that pays the rent. She's the one that feeds her family. But despite doing all of that, it was not enough for Peter. She would pay for rent and all of that, and Peter would still lock her out of the house most times in the night without any giving her any bedding, without any wrapper that she can use to cover herself. All of that, she would just push her out of the house, and that has been her faith in that. So much so that when she gave birth to her first child, they didn't even tell her family that she had given birth. Her mom had to hear it through rumors that Osinachi had just given birth to a child, that their first son. Her mom was confused. Why didn't my daughter or even my son-in-law call me? At least for the omugo, let me come. And as an Igbo mother, is a thing of pride to come to your daughter's house to do the omugo celebration, like taking care of her child and all of that. Is a big thing in Nigerian culture. But she was not invited for that. So it was as if they just wrote her family off. It was as if Peter made her to write her family off, and she called her mom said that she called Peter and asked him, why was I not invited? I heard that my daughter had just given birth. Was I not invited? That Peter told her off, told her that she should not call this number anymore, that she doesn't want to see her in his house. So the mom was surprised at how Peter was behaving, and when she eventually got through to Osinachi, Osinachi asked her, "Mommy, have you called Peter?" She said yes, that she had called Peter, and she asked her what Peter said. He said that Peter said that she shouldn't bother coming, and Osinachi said, "Mommy, maybe you shouldn't come. I don't want to disobey my husband." Things like that. And that one passed. So subsequently, her brother stays in Abuja. He's staying in a very in a ghetto in Abuja. He cannot their only brother. He cannot visit Osinachi to at least even if to take a cup of water in her house. He cannot come there. Nothing. Her twin sister would visit Abuja. She would sleep in the church. She would lie on the floor in the church instead of visiting her sister, because she know that if she call her sister, that her sister will enter trouble that day. Her sister, Peter may beat her sister. So because she doesn't want her sister to be beaten because of her, she would prefer to stay in church and sleep in the church instead of calling her sister up to come to her house and stay. Just like normal siblings, it was not allowed. Peter wanted everything from Osinachi for him. He manages her accounts. He is her manager in this her singing ministry. He is her manager. He is her everything. He is the one that manages the money, her accountant, everything. So Osinachi cannot even take out money from the money that she's being paid to buy things for herself. She cannot, unless Peter signs off on her buying those things. She cannot take money out of the account to spend on herself. That was her faith in that house. When they get sick, if Peter does not want to bring money to treat the children, Osinachi will not have anything to spend. She will have to run to the pharmacist and explain to him and beg him or her to give her medicine to be able to treat her children. Most things like that is just through God's grace that she survived till 2022. So she was just living like that. And you would ask, why won't she leave? Why would she's facing all of this in the marriage? Why won't she leave? But for a domestic violence victim, it's very, very hard for them to live like that, especially for one that is very, very religious, one that believes that marriage is for better or for worse till death do us part. It's always very hard for them to live. Once she believes that the society will be so much against that, then the God hates divorce, all of that. So she's just that kind of person that believes that the marriage is till death do us part, for better or for worse, so that as she's facing the worst, that she will not leave, that she keeps believing in God, believing God that Peter will change, that she can pray change into Peter. It doesn't work that way. There is no most times it doesn't work that way. You cannot pray someone into changing, someone that does not want to change, someone that does not see what he or she is doing as a problem. You cannot pray that person into changing. So she kept praying and believing that he would change, but he was getting worse, to the extent that at a time there was a day that he made the kids to made her to lie on the floor and made her kids, her 4 kids, little kids, to whip her. The kids will be whipping her and be crying, and then their mother, that is Osinachi, will be crying too, and Peter will stood there and was telling them to whip her, keep whipping her, keep flogging her, and that was what they were doing. That's the height of abuse. That he kept doing that, to the extent that there was a day that they were coming back from a program. I think they were having an argument inside the car, and Osinachi retorted. She said something, and Osinachi retorted and said whatever she said, and because she challenged him, he just pushed her out of the car and kept going where he was going, out of the car in the middle of nowhere at night in Abuja. That she was even robbed that night, because where he pushed her was a very, very dangerous place in that Abuja. So she was trekking home. She didn't have her purse, she didn't have money. It was just through the God's grace that she made it home that day, and she was robbed. All these things, she was facing all of that. And I keep wondering, and I know that you're watching this video will keep saying, why did she leave? Why did she leave? And I will still say that for a religious person, and especially from someone from the Igbo tribe, it will be so hard for her to leave, because culturally we don't believe in divorce. In the Igbo tribe, we don't believe in divorce. Then church too will tell you that God does not like divorce. So all these things will made her to continue staying, and she died at the age of 42. But looking at Osinachi, you would never believe that Osinachi was 42. All the while that I was watching her sing her videos, I didn't think that she was 42. It was during my research that I found out that she was 42 at the time of her death. She was so young, but yet looked so old. So she faced a lot of things in her marriage, and it was just typical of an abuser like Peter to just keep saying that she died of cancer, she died of cancer, she died of cancer. And Peter at one time had told her mom that if Osinachi doesn't want to leave, that she will leave in death. And her parents still told her about that, and she still stayed. And now he eventually did what he said, and now he's hanging it on cancer. It didn't even take the police and the human rights activist long after the mom said what she said for them to arrest him, and they arrested him in the same April of 2022. The same April that Osinachi died. Osinachi died on April 8th. Peter was arrested on April 22 of 2022, and he was taken to his trial started on June 3rd of that same 2022, and since then he has been going to court, and his case was being tried. He was going for trial, and his kids testified against him. They testified how bad he treated their mother, how told the tale of domestic violence. Even the commissioner for women affairs in Abuja had to go, like he said, she doesn't want to listen to hearsay. She wanted hear first-hand experience from the kids. After talking with the kids, she came out crying, because what the tales that the kids told made her cry so much what this lady Osinachi faced in her marriage. And the church, when at the time that she died, because people started blaming the church that because of their preachings, that is because of their talks about God hates divorce, God they hates divorce, that was why Osinachi couldn't leave. But the church came out and said that they didn't know that she was facing something like that. It was only Frank Edwards that said that he, in one of their studio times, in one of the days that they were singing in the studio, that he was surprised that Osinachi's husband just slapped her, and he was like, what's happening? He was confused seeing her being slapped by this man. And when being asked what happened, he said that it's just because Osinachi said Peter was insisting that Osinachi should sing one of the verses in English language, but Osinachi said that she wanted to sing in Igbo, and when she sang in Igbo, that the husband just slapped her, and he was very confused. And that after that incident, that Osinachi came and begged him so much that he shouldn't tell anyone, like he shouldn't tell the pastors, he shouldn't tell anyone in the church. And that was how the matter died. He didn't really think about it anymore. They just felt that was like a one-time thing. They didn't know that that was what has been happening in their marriage. That it was like an everyday thing. So the pastor came out and said that he didn't know, he never knew that something like that was happening to Osinachi, because they come to church every Sunday, laugh, they come together as a family to the church, and the kids will come to him, greet him, they will talk, and he never heard something like that from the kids. And when the kids started telling him after her death, that the kids started telling him about the domestic violence, he was just asking them, why didn't you guys tell me that this was happening between your mom and your dad? He said that the dad usually asks them, anytime they run to go and greet the pastor, immediately they come back to where they are, where the family is. Like he usually asks them, I hope you didn't say anything to the pastor, and they will say yes, that they didn't say anything to the pastor. So Osinachi was preventing anyone that she knows from talking to the pastor, telling her business to anybody. Then her husband is also preventing anything that will make like anybody to know what was happening in their home. So that she hid it, she didn't want to tell people. So that was why they didn't know. And that in the church, that in their own church, that they don't preach so much about God hates divorce, that they believe that once it gets to that domestic violence, that the marriage should end, that no marriage should take your life. You should be able to live your life even without marriage. If you can leave the marriage and stay single, that is better than being in a marriage that will kill you. Now that was what they preach in their church, that they never knew that something like that was happening with Osinachi. And people somehow believed them because of the testimonies that were coming out from people that knew Osinachi, that kept saying that she told them not to tell anyone. She told them not to tell anyone, that she doesn't want anyone to know what's happening, that she believed that God will make Peter to change, that Peter will soon change. And she kept praying for that change, and she died praying for that. So during the trial, like a lot of people, like 17 people testified. Amongst that 17 people, her two kids, two of her grown kids were amongst the people that testified against the dad. Her hairdresser, her pharmacist, a lot of people that knew Osinachi, her friends were able. Nigeria, people like to stay on their own. They don't like to go to court and testify against anyone or say anything against anyone. They usually run away from anything that has to do with court. But this time around, people came out in their multitude. People that knew Osinachi came out and testified how Peter was an abusive husband. So everybody, they testified. After the testimony, Peter was sentenced to death. And then he was sentenced in all the other counts of pushing out of the car, making the kids to whip her, and all of that. He was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment because of all of that. He will spend the rest of his life in prison. even if he does not get the death penalty, even if he does, the death penalty does not get to, it does not get to be carried out, because most times most governors don't sign off on the death penalty like that. So even if he doesn't get signed off, he will spend the rest of his life on death row in prison, which is a good thing. So that was what happened with Osinachi. He got like 23 counts of charges on him, culpable murder and all of that, different things different charges on him, on all the things that he did. I would say good for him. At least he'll get to spend the rest of his life in prison. He thought it would be so easy for him to kill someone's child and just name it cancer, because he feels cancer is just that common, that okay, if he calls cancer, they will say okay, it's cancer, okay, okay. But cancer does not just kill people like that. Cancer is not like fever or anything. Cancer takes a process. It's not something that will just come today and just kill someone tomorrow. So he shouting his cancer, his throat cancer, his lung cancer and all of that doesn't make any sense at all. So those children, those children and the people that knew them, and that knew that her neighbors too, and knew that she was facing domestic violence from this man, all of them came together and testified against him, and that was why he was sentenced to death by hanging, which is good. So that's the story of Osinachi Nwachukwu. I hope we've learned something meaningful from this story, especially if you're in a DV situation, if you are experiencing domestic violence and all of that. Please just seek help. Just seek, each country have numbers that you can call. You seek help. Come out of there. You don't need to pray the person into changing. No, those kind of people don't change. So it's better you just leave to leave. Okay, just leave. The children that you are trying to stay for, they are the ones seeing all those the violence. A child that is seeing violence from childhood, that is seeing violence from when he was 1 or when she is 2. What kind of example are you setting for that child? Will the child be a reasonable person in the society if you keep staying and facing all of that, and the child is still seeing those kind of things? How would that child turn out to be? So just leave to live, okay? Just nobody change. They don't change. They don't change. And this domestic violence is so common. This lady, her songs, she sings. The way she sings, you feel the pain in the song. We will feel the pain. We feel that when she was singing those songs at first, when we didn't know what was happening, we felt it was anointing and all of that was coming out through that song. But now that in hindsight we know that is the pain emanating from her that we are feeling through those songs. It is well with our soul. Thank you very much for watching. That being said, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget to subscribe